December the 10th, 2024. Guys, you're looking at a very important map and a very important area of this part of the planet. You've got Israel to the right here in the bottom of this. There's Netanyahu. Here's Haifa right there. See that? Well, they have moved up to Mount Hermon here. And if you look at the borders, back this out a little bit, we can see it. They're right here. This is the Syria and Lebanese border right there. And so all of that's happening up to the point where it gets over into Damascus, which is about to happen. Now, again, the soldiers are here. This is Haifa. Mount Carmel is right down here. Mount Carmel, excuse me. All of these places are very biblical, and we are seeing a lot of movement going into this area. Again, day before yesterday, the IDF had moved in here and onto the top of the mountain. Now, if you move over here, you're only a few miles from Damascus already. If you will put on our distance map from this area right here to Damascus, the outskirts, which would be right in this area here where these roads intersect, that is 21.75 miles. But they moved up since we saw the pictures of there. Now they've moved up to this section right there, guys, again on the Lebanese and Syrian border. So let's move this up to where some of the Russian maps of that covered the different battles as far as Ukraine and all, they're also covering this. And in the latest map, they're showing IDF forces sitting here. And again, all of these places are very compact compared to what some of the larger nations are dealing with. But if they move from here to here, you're only talking about 5 or 6 miles. But from here, where they're reported at in the last update, using satellite images, from here, put that back in there, to the edge of Damascus, we'll say right here at this intersection, you're talking about 16.16 miles, guys. It's, that's a 15-minute drive in a normal highway situation. And there are different roads that lead through the mountains, not just the main highways you can see through here. This is your 4, Al Sabora right there. So they're, again, in a straight line, 16 miles, maybe going through the highways 20, 25 miles from Damascus. Now, why is that important? The rebels that have taken the 3 major cities in Syria are in Damascus. Now, their statement, and again, I looked at the images, the information coming out this morning, is that they want a friendly relationship with Israel. They're just trying to take down the Syrian regime, and the Syrian regime had been a pretty nasty group. Some of the prisons over there were basically death camps, things like that. Anyway, regardless of the side you're on or whatever, the rebels are in Damascus. The IDF is 16.16 miles away from this intersection coming in. So a pretty large area, a couple million people. Now, what's going to happen? Why is the battle more important than what they're talking about? If we back this up, again, here's Lebanon, here's Israel, Jordan, and Syria, very large. Iraq's here. Iran can come in very easily. Here's Iran. They can come in very easily right through here. They don't have to get into Iraq. They can come in right through here, along the Turkish border, and drop anything that was abandoned in Afghanistan right into Syria. So let's go back to this a minute. Anyway, why is the world focusing, and why now has Russia and Iran kind of backed out and let the IDF move in? Is Russia and Syria afraid that, or Russia and Turkey, are they afraid that the rebels will take over Syria altogether? And what is there? It's very rich oil deposits. They say who controls Syria controls the oil of this region. You've got pipelines, you've got drilling, the whole 9 yards. So is this a rush and a clash coming? Again, let's go back down a little closer here. Here's Damascus. Rebels are in this area. And it's not just here. The IDF is kind of spread out through a couple of other sections here. But what happens when this pretend friendly grouping between the rebels, which is basically, I think, Al-Qaeda, under a new name. How are they going to deal with if the IDF keeps pushing towards Damascus? They're already into Syria, right? They've left the borderland now. They are getting into Syria, right on the edge. The IDF may come under intense fire because of what was left in Afghanistan. Now, they haven't had much fighting going on, a few skirmishes in the towns, but what has happened is the IDF has started blowing up major air bases in Syria. We're going to back this up a little bit. It's a large place. They've taken Homs and they've taken Aleppo up here. But overnight, the IDF has been bombing chemical plants, military plants, air bases, anything like that that the rebels could get to use against them. So you got a battle of taking the possibly the oil, but they've gone much further than Damascus into the bombing of all the areas in Syria that could be taken over by this group and used to come into Israel. So if all the forces that are in this area, again, they came in, took Aleppo, and came on down, took Hama, here's Aleppo right down this highway, now they're here. That would be enough to force Israel once, and again, Israel is using air control now. No one's there. Russia's not there. They were the first day of the offense. Turkey's not there. Russia's not there. Now they're letting the IDF come in. Is it a trap? And who's going to spring the trap? Who's going to get caught in it? But it would not take much if they start pushing into, again, here is Damascus. Here is Mount Hermon. To push back down, here's Haifa, right there. Pull this up. Getting back down into Israel proper. And what are you're going to run into an area right here. See this big area? You know what that is? It's called Megiddon. Right straight down the highway. So what are we looking at? I'm not saying there's a certain date on anything because we don't know exactly, but we know to look for the signs. And we're seeing a lot of them right now. We actually have a new Arab Spring. Remember that several years ago? And that's what's happening here. But the control of the oil, the control of the military operations that are there, the weapons and all of that, they don't want, either side does not want the other one to have it. And that's going to be a battle right there. Will the Israelis be pushed back a little further south? We've seen them have excursions into Lebanon before and come back, trying to clear that barrier so the northern Israelis can move back into those settlements there. Here's Mount Carmel, another very important part. It says the top of that will wither. And will that be as the battle comes from here, moves a little further south to Armageddon, or to Megiddon, or Megiddon? Check that out. Just saying, guys, I'll show you a couple pictures of why I'm talking about the movements here. Now, this was tagged out yesterday. Now, they write it a little different than we do. It says 9/12, but they're talking about December the 9th. Syrian civil war situations and Manbij front. In the last 36 hours, the SNA, that's the Syrian National Army that we're talking about, the rebels, took control of many localities in the countryside of Manbij, reaching the Hammonius city where the SDF, Syrian Defense Forces, continue to fight the sleeper cells and dissidents of the MMC. Meanwhile, the pro-Turkish rebels, now we're in Syria, remember, tried to cut off supplies from Manbij by attacking the Quora, Kozag Bridge, and the Tishrin Dam. For the moment, the attacks were repelled. However, the SDF situation on the western bank of the Euphrates is becoming increasingly difficult. Do you see these biblical words keep popping up, guys? Now, some of these map tags are very small, and it's going to be hard to read. I'm going to read it from you. Also from yesterday, 9/12 or 12/9, situation south of Syria. Since yesterday, the IDF entered Bath and today increased its presence around that town. In addition, in the last hours, and again, this is yesterday, Israeli forces reached the outskirts of Hadadrimmon On the other hand, Israeli aircraft significantly bombed several former SAA Syrian Air Force military positions, destroying huge amounts of equipment in Damascus, Daria, Suwada, Homa, Harna, Tartus, and Latakia. Now think about that. Here we go, the destruction of Damascus. And there's pictures there, if you look it up, guys, of a lot of bombing of the airports. Is that the beginning of the destruction, of the end of Damascus? We're seeing it here, and will it move south into Armageddon? And will they be able to move on the banks of the Euphrates? You know where I'm coming from, don't you? Now, this is an image of a dude called Al-Juliana, probably Juliana with the silent J, the new leader of Syria, the head of what was once called Al-Qaeda. We are open to friendship with Israel. I'll read it. We have no enemies except for the Assad regime, Hezbollah, and Iran. What Israel did against Hezbollah and Lebanon has greatly helped us. Now we will take care of the rest. Exactly, and that's what the IDF is saying. They're, because of the movement and all, is because they took out a lot of the problems. They had some U.S. help. They had help from different places. So it's kind of been like America's on the fence line between Russia, Ukraine, Israel, and right now Syria. Now let me move. I'm going to expand this out because this is part of the map of the advance yesterday and last night, into a little further into Israel, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Now, this picture is basically covering the city of Damascus. See the blue line right there in the tank? That is IDF forces. Now, here's that straight line I was showing you on the Syrian-Lebanese border. So if this is correct, they're moving up into the mountains. So right now, we're pretty accurate on looking at that 12-point-something miles in here, guys. But that was yesterday. Now, have they come into one of these mountain pass roads? I know you can't see it very well. Here's a Katuna right there, a Katana. And moving through there, of course, the Air Force is all over taking out military installations. But back to the left of this blue line is where Mount Hermon is. And I think that's about 5 or 6 miles advanced. Not much, right now there's not much opposition because, like the leader of Al-Qaeda, Al-Juliani, said, you took out most of our problems. So both sides are like, it's kind of like the vacuum in World War II. Russia was rushing into Germany, the U.S. was rushing into Germany to try to take it over. And it ended up being split, and you had East and West Germany in the wall. Right now we have a similar vacuum. We talked about that. Who's going to take the place of the Assad forces? He's supposedly in Russia, or the area. And so you got Israel moving in there, and you know the neocons in D.C., they want that oil in this territory. So watch for a lot of help coming into this area to set up a way that they can control it. And with Israel, if Israel gets the oil or the area, then the U.S. will have all they want of that, even though we have plenty here. That's kind of the way Kuwait and all that was, guys, in Iraq, right? But so right now we've got forces probably less than 10 miles from Damascus. That is where the clash will happen, in my opinion. And we'll start seeing more and more problems, and we could see these blue marks and blue tanks move back further south over Mount Carmel into the Valley of Armageddon. Just saying this is the time to be very careful, guys. Not trying to scare you, just trying to make you aware so that you prepare for what's coming. It's a heads up. Be safe.